The hidden dangers of Red 40. What you should know. It's in your kid's favorite cereal. It's in that sports drink you grab after a workout. It gives the cherry on top of your sundae its perfect jewel-like gleam. That vibrant, unmistakable red color is everywhere, found in thousands of foods lining our grocery store shelves. It's called Red 40, or Allura Red, and it's one of the most widely used artificial food dyes in America. For decades, we've consumed it without a second thought, trusting it's safe. But what if that trust has been misplaced? What if this seemingly harmless dye, a chemical derived from petroleum, has a hidden dark side? A growing body of scientific evidence is pulling back the curtain, suggesting a potential link between long-term consumption of Red 40 and a cascade of serious health issues. We're not just talking about allergies or hyperactivity anymore. Newer research is raising questions about something more fundamental: damage to our very own DNA. So, what should you really know before you or your family take another bite of that brightly colored snack? The answer might change the way you look at the food you eat. Section 1. What is Red 40? To understand the potential risks, we first need to understand what Red 40 actually is. Unlike natural colorants from beets or carrots, Red 40 is a synthetic azo dye. Its journey doesn't begin on a farm. It begins with industrial chemicals. Specifically, it's derived from petroleum. Yes, the same source of fossil fuels that power our cars is the starting point for an ingredient in countless foods, particularly those marketed to children. This fact alone is unsettling for many, but the chemical's properties are what have drawn intense scientific scrutiny. Our bodies haven't evolved to process it. When we consume it, our system has to figure out what to do with this foreign compound. And that's where some researchers believe the problems begin. The use of synthetic food dyes like Red 40 exploded in the latter half of the 20th century. Food manufacturers found them cheaper, more stable, and more vibrant than natural alternatives, making products visually irresistible. The result? A food supply saturated with these artificial chemicals, found in everything from candy and baked goods to yogurts and even salad dressings. Its presence is pervasive. This widespread use means our exposure isn't occasional. For many, it's chronic. Day after day, meal after meal, our bodies are tasked with handling this petroleum-derived substance. And as consumption has risen, researchers have noted a troubling correlation. The surge in synthetic dye use coincides with a rise in certain modern health crises, including early-onset colorectal cancer. This correlation, while not proof of causation, has launched a new wave of urgent scientific investigation. Is it just a coincidence, or could this bright red dye be a hidden contributor to some of our most feared diseases? The clues, it turns out, may lie deep within our cells. Section 2. The science of DNA damage. Perhaps the most alarming questions being raised about Red 40 revolve around its potential to be genotoxic, meaning it may be able to damage our DNA. Our DNA is the blueprint for our entire body, the code that instructs our cells how to grow, function, and repair themselves. When this code is damaged, it can lead to mutations, and those mutations can be a precursor to cancer. For years, the question of whether Red 40 could cause this kind of damage was debated, but recent studies have provided some startling insights. Groundbreaking research published in the journal Toxicology Reports took this question from theory to observable fact in the lab. In a series of experiments, scientists investigated the direct effects of Red 40. First, they applied it to human colon cancer cells in a lab setting. The results were clear. Red 40 caused DNA damage in a dose and time-dependent manner. The more Red 40 the cells were exposed to, and the longer the exposure, the more the DNA inside them broke down. But what happens in a petri dish doesn't always translate to a living organism. So the researchers took the critical next step: an animal study. They gave Red 40 to mice at doses equivalent to the FDA's acceptable daily intake, ADI, for humans. Frighteningly, they found the same result. Red 40 induced DNA damage in the cells of the animals' colons. This wasn't a megadose that no human would ever consume. This was damage occurring in mice at levels our own regulatory bodies consider safe for daily, lifelong consumption. The authors of this pivotal research concluded their results support the hypothesis that Red 40 could be a factor in early-onset colorectal cancer. Furthermore, the dye can contain trace amounts of a chemical called p-cressetine, which the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services reasonably anticipates to be a human carcinogen based on animal studies. While regulatory bodies have not classified Red 40 itself as a carcinogen, the fact that emerging research shows it can damage DNA makes it, in the words of one scientific review, worthy of further molecular investigation. The science no longer allows us to simply dismiss these concerns. It's now showing that at the cellular level, this common food coloring may be chipping away at the very foundation of our health. If you're finding this information valuable and want to stay informed on what's really in your food, take a moment to subscribe and hit the notification bell. We rededicated to digging into the science so you can make the best choices for your health. Your support helps us continue this investigation. Section 3. The inflammation connection. While the potential for DNA damage is a profound concern, it's only one piece of the puzzle. Red 40 is also being implicated in another process that serves as a well-known pathway to disease: chronic inflammation. Think of inflammation as your body's internal fire department. When you get a cut, your immune system rushes to the scene, creating short-term inflammation to heal the damage. That's a healthy response. But chronic inflammation is a low-level, smoldering fire that never goes out. And over time, it can damage cells and create an environment where diseases, including cancer, can thrive. Recent studies have directly linked Red 40 to this dangerous state, particularly within the gut. A study from McMaster University published in Nature Communications was one of the first to sound this specific alarm. Researchers found that chronic consumption of Allura Red triggered a harmful chain reaction in the gut of mice. It increased the production of serotonin in the gut, which disrupted the gut's delicate balance, altered the microbiome, and ultimately led to a state of inflammation and increased susceptibility to conditions like colitis, a form of inflammatory bowel disease, IBD. The study's senior author, Waliul Khan, called the findings striking and alarming, noting they demonstrate significant harmful effects of Allura Red on gut health. This isn't an isolated finding. The same University of South Carolina study that confirmed DNA damage also investigated inflammation. They found that when mice were fed Red 40, especially with a high-fat diet, a combination that mirrors the Western diet for many people, they developed low-grade inflammation in the colon. This creates a potential perfect storm. The dye may damage DNA in colon cells while simultaneously creating an inflammatory environment that could help those damaged cells turn cancerous. This new science suggests that every time we consume foods with this additive, we could be fanning the flames of a silent internal fire. Section 4. The regulatory maze and a shifting tide. If the science is pointing to these potential dangers, it begs an obvious question. Why is Red 40 still allowed in our food? The answer lies in a complex and increasingly controversial regulatory history. Red 40 was approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, back in 1971. Based on the science available then, the agency established an acceptable daily intake, or ADI, of 7 milligrams per kilogram of body weight per day. The problem, as critics point out, is that many of these foundational safety studies are now decades old. Science has advanced dramatically, and newer research methods are uncovering risks that were previously invisible, demonstrating DNA damage and gut inflammation in animals at doses previously deemed safe. This creates a significant gap between the official regulatory position and the cutting edge of scientific research. For years, the FDA has maintained its stance that artificial food colors, including Red 40, are safe. However, the ground is beginning to shift. Internationally, many countries are more cautious. The European Union requires products containing Red 40 to carry a warning label about potential effects on children's activity and attention. This has led many manufacturers to voluntarily remove these dyes from products sold in Europe. This means the same brand of candy you buy in the United States often has a completely different, cleaner ingredient list overseas. Now, that pressure is mounting within the US itself. In a landmark move, the FDA announced in January 2025 that it was banning red dye No. 3 from use in foods and ingested drugs due to its link to cancer in animal studies. Following this, in April 2025, the Department of Health and Human Services and the FDA announced a new initiative to work with the food industry to voluntarily phase out all petroleum-based synthetic dyes from the U.S. food supply by the end of 2026. Citing risks to children's health, HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. stated, "That era is coming to an end." States are also taking action. California passed a law to ban several synthetic dyes, including Red 40, from foods sold in public schools, starting in 2027. Other states like West Virginia have also enacted bills prohibiting the sale of foods containing Red 40 and other dyes. This patchwork of state-level action, combined with the new federal push, signals a major turning point. While Red 40 is not yet officially banned nationwide, its days appear to be numbered. Section 5. What you can do. The solution. Waiting for a full federal ban can take years, but the good news is you don't have to wait to protect yourself and your family. The solution is knowledge and vigilance, and it starts in the grocery store aisle. The most important step is to become a label reader. Food manufacturers are required to list Red 40 in the ingredient list. Look for its names: Red 40, FD&C Red No. 40, or Allura Red. It's often hidden in a long list of ingredients, so take your time. Be aware that vague terms like artificial color or color added can also signal the presence of synthetic dyes. So where should you be looking? The list of products containing Red 40 is incredibly long. Start with the most common culprits: brightly colored candies, fruit snacks, and gelatin desserts. Many children's breakfast cereals, sodas, sports drinks, and powdered drink mixes. Commercial baked goods like cakes with red frosting or fillings, condiments and sauces, including some brands of ketchup and salad dressing. Flavored dairy products like some yogurts and ice creams. You might be shocked at how many products, even those you don't think of as red, contain this dye. The solution is to actively seek out alternatives. Many brands responding to consumer pressure are already offering products free from synthetic dyes. Look for labels that say "no artificial colors" or "colored with fruit and vegetable juices." Often, the organic version of a product will use natural colorants like beet, annatto, or paprika instead of synthetic dyes. Of course, the most foolproof strategy is choosing whole, unprocessed foods. An apple is naturally red. It doesn't need a petroleum-based dye. By shifting your diet away from ultra-processed, brightly colored packaged goods and towards fresh fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, you not only eliminate Red 40, but also a host of other questionable additives. Every time you choose a product without synthetic dyes, you are casting a vote for a cleaner food supply. The story of Red 40 is a stark reminder that what is common isn't always what is safe. For 50 years, we have lived with foods colored by petroleum-based chemicals in a grand, uncontrolled experiment. Now, the science is catching up, and the picture it's painting is deeply concerning. The potential links between Red 40, DNA damage, and chronic inflammation are no longer just theoretical. They are observable phenomena being demonstrated in peer-reviewed scientific studies. While regulatory agencies are finally beginning to act, the pace of government can be slow. The ultimate responsibility for our health falls to us. By understanding the risks, reading the labels, and making conscious choices, we can reclaim control over what we put into our bodies. We can choose foods that nourish, not just foods that dazzle. The investigation doesn't stop here. Red 40 is just one of many additives in our food supply. What other food additives or ingredients have you been wondering about? Let us know in the comments below. We read everyone, and your suggestions will guide our next investigation into the truth about what's on your plate.